Yes, yes, yes. Hallelujah. There's nothing wrong with being happy, friend. You know, I can't hear anything. The problem with folks that come to this revival is they leave here and they're so beside themselves, people get mad at them. You ever had that happen to you? You're so happy, you know, and the world can't handle that kind of stuff, friend. They can't handle joy, happiness, and you can be broke as a church mouse and be just so happy because God's touched your life. That's okay. I remember when I first got saved, I got so beside myself, got so happy, and my sister who comes to this revival, my older sister, cussed me out. Now, I was a drug addict before, and when I was a drug addict and a street scum, she could handle that. All right, but then I got saved, and I would say things rather than cussing her, and rather than drinking with her, I would come over and say, "Praise the Lord, Marcia, how are you today?" And she said, I'll never forget one time she said, "Don't you ever use that language in my house again." Can you imagine? I know you can, because many people in this place have been touched by God. And if you haven't, before this night's up, you're gonna. You're gonna be touched. God is touching folks. I know there's a lot of you here for the first time. You don't fully understand this. But God is visiting people. Okay? You don't, let's just look at this logically for those of you here that are logical. You can't put up a sign out front of a church that says revival, which we haven't, but you can't put up a sign out front, revival, and have 1.9 million people come through from all over the world unless something's happening. See that? People are smarter than that. They're not coming to hear Lyndell or hear me preach. You can hear great music and great preaching sitting at home. You can buy tapes and videos. Why are they coming from all over the world? Why do they come in bus loads? Why do they come from all over the place to this building? And Pastor, it's going to happen in your church also. When the Spirit of God starts moving, people get touched. They leave out of here like these folks in North Carolina, go back home, tell other people, God's touched me. They come, they go back, tell other people. And so, friend, I'm telling you tonight, if you're visiting for the first time, God's going to touch you. If you're visiting for the 18th time, God's going to touch you. There's always more. There's always more. I want everyone to pray with me, and I can't hear a thing up here, guys. I need some help. I need everyone to pray with me tonight. Those of you at home, I want you to stand also. Everyone pray out loud, and this is for those of you that don't believe in God. I know there's people here that don't want to be here. Maybe somebody said, let's go down to Florida to the beaches, and you had no idea that there was a church so close to the beaches. And here you are. We've had a lot of people tricked. They've come here and they were so thankful they were tricked. But I want everyone to pray with me. God lovers and God haters, pray with me right now. Dear Jesus. Dear Jesus. No, friend, everybody didn't pray just then. There's a few of you didn't pray. I want everyone to pray. Dear Jesus, speak to my heart. Change my life. In your precious name. Amen. You may be seated. I'm going to kill myself tonight. I can't hear. Well, I know a few things tonight. I know that this service is ordained of God. People ask us all the time, are we tired? Friend, yes, we're very tired. Revival, someone said, this refreshing is killing me. You know, revival will wear you out, friend. It's hard work because it's not just these services. It's day in, day out working with people that have come to the services. Their lives have changed. See, we got a Bible school down the road. We got folks all the time coming through here. They want to go to Bible school. And some of them are fresh off of drugs. They've been saved 2 weeks. They want to go to Bible school. And you got to talk to them. You got to debate with yourself. You got to discuss among the staff. Should we do this? Should we take a chance with a young person that's just known the Lord 3 months? Should we let them into the Bible school? Should we wait for another semester to go by? And I want to tell you, friend, Some of those incredible students in that school are students that got saved here, delivered from witchcraft, the junk of the world, and got dead serious. They remind me of Saul of Tarsus. They get so serious so quick. And for most folks, that scares us. You go, man, these folks got to fall or something. You know, you just can't get that serious. Oh, yes, you can. You can go after God. I'm one of those people. I got serious 22 years ago, was so drastic. And as a matter of fact, when I first went into a program called Teen Challenge, they thought I was conning because I was so serious. They had never seen anybody go through going after God the way I would go after God. I would get up early in the morning and pray by myself. I'd just known the Lord for like 3 months. And I was already getting up at 4 and 5 in the morning. They couldn't understand that. They thought, surely this guy is conning. But 22 years later, they figured out this guy was not conning. He was going after Jesus. So revival, friend, there's a lot of work involved in revival. Yes, we're tired, but I'll do this till the Lord comes back. All of us will. We'll do it. Because God's about to do something that's unprecedented in the world. Church history is being written. You're being a part of it. We're at the very beginning, and I want you can quote me if you want, but mark these words. We are at the very beginning of the greatest awakening. Now, the difference between an awakening and a revival, anything, it had to have been something before. A revival is for the church to come alive. And that's what's happening, and it's going to take time for that. How many would agree? It's taken time for the church to come alive. Why does the church have to come alive? It's got to come alive before God can send an awakening. An awakening comes at the heels of a revival. The church comes alive. God sees that His bride is in love with Him, not the world. She's not in adultery anymore. And He goes, now I can send them the world. And then He begins building a hunger in the hearts of the masses. And then they start getting saved. And what happens when they get saved? They come into your church, Pastor. And what do they find? A disgruntled church member? No. They find on fire church members, in love with Jesus, in love with God. And it works. And what happens to your church? Hello, it grows. Why? The ingredients are right. The church has been revived. So you got to have the revival first. And that's what's going on, friend. But we're at the verge of the greatest awakening this world has ever seen. And I would encourage everyone, throw every log you have on the fire. Do everything you can. Go after it, burn the midnight oil, run the combines at night. That's what revival is. You ever been out in the fields, driving down the road, and you see the lights on, and this farmer's out at night running that combine across that field? 9, 10, 11 o'clock at night. I live in farmland. They do it all the time. They know that rough weather's coming. They know they can't run the combine in rough weather, so they're up 11, 12 o'clock at night with searchlights out there bringing in the crops. That's what revival and the awakening is going to be about, friend. When the harvest is out there, go to work. Amen. I know everyone is here under divine appointment. Also, the Lord spoke to me a minute ago about somebody in this room. I don't know who you are. Maybe you're up in the balcony. I don't know. But there's someone here. You have been quenching the Spirit of God long enough. That means, friend, He has tried everything to get a hold of you. Everything. You have been plagued by the presence of God. You will go home and turn the television on and someone will be preaching at you. You'll be at work and you'll be in the men's bathroom and there'll be a tract laying on the sink. You'll be in the mall walking around and somebody will walk up to you and ask you if you know Jesus. You have been witnessed to, you have been spoken to, and on top of all that, there's something gnawing in your spirit. Something's wrong. That's called the Spirit of God. He's trying to get a hold of you, sir. The Spirit of God's trying to get a hold of you, ma'am. And the Lord told me to tell you, tonight's the night. He told me right in that seat just a few minutes ago to tell you that tonight's the night to get right with God. How do you know tonight's the night? Because today is the day of salvation. Today is the day to get right with God. Well, I had an experience with God when I was a child. That's not what I'm talking about, friend. Christianity is a relationship. I want to ask you, do you know Him right now? Do you know the Lord? Are you walking with Him? Do you wake up in the morning with Jesus on your heart? I get up early in the mornings and I walk out on our farm, and I'll often lift my hands up in the air and just walk around worshiping Jesus. I don't care who sees me. I don't care what kind of traffic is driving by the highway. Just worship Jesus. Why? He's everything. It's a relationship. It's not something you turn on at church and turn off when you leave. He's with you constantly. This dear brother was so true when he said, I had to tell the doctor that God healed. Why is that? Because he knows it was Jesus, and it's a relationship with the Lord. How many are with me tonight? Stay here. God's got a plan. Turn with me to Romans, the book of Romans. Now, I can tell some folks are tired. Where's that wireless mic? You got that, Pastor? Just hold it close, all right? Let me tell you what we're going to do in this place if anybody starts nodding off. All right? I've never had anybody fall asleep in any of my messages, friend, since Father's Day, 95, and I'm going to tell you why. If you start nodding, that means, y'all know what it is. It's heavy breathing. You feel it. You can tell it's happening to your mate or your friend or the neighbor sitting next to you. You don't know who he is. Maybe he's had a hard day. I don't know. When somebody starts heavy breathing next to you, let them go. Let them go. Matter of fact, you can go, Just let them go. When they're good and out, and it starts affecting their nasal passages, and they're starting to make those noises, lift your hand. You lift your hand just like this. All right? Just lift your hand. I'll be preaching. I'll see your hand. I know it's not the altar call because we don't do that. We don't lift our hands and close our eyes. I know what's going on. In the balcony, I know what's going on. You're lifting your hand because someone's snoring next to you. I know what's keeping them snoring is my preaching, okay? I know that. As long as I can keep up this tone, they think everything's okay. All right? Pastors, you know what I'm talking about. As long as they can hear you screaming and shouting, everything's fine. And so I'll continue screaming and shouting, but I'll have that little wireless mic, that handheld in my hand, and I'll be moving towards him. And when I get close, sleeper, my sound man knows just what to do. He's going to crank that thing up, friend, and knock the rafters off this building. We're going to stick it in your nose. One snort, and it'll reverberate, the walls will shake. You'll wake up, everybody will be looking at you. Everybody in the place. You'll be on national television. How about that? You always wanted to be a star. You'll be able to say, hey, Mom, I'm on 2020. You'll be on television, friend. So go ahead. Go to sleep and good night. Romans chapter 1. 16. For I am not ashamed of the gospel, for it is the power of God for salvation to everyone who believes, to the Jew first and also to the Greek. Can I read that one more time? For I am not ashamed of the gospel, for it is the power of God for salvation to everyone who believes, to the Jew first and also to the Greek. I'm going to look at one more scripture here, friends. 2 Timothy. 2 Timothy. I preached a message several weeks ago or months, I don't know what it was, back yonder, entitled No Apology. And I'm not finished with it. 2 Timothy. I don't get finished with a lot of sermons in this place. 2 Timothy chapter 1 verse 12. For this reason I also suffer these things, but I am not ashamed, for I know whom I have believed, and I am convinced that he is able to guard that which I have entrusted to him until that day. We're going to nail some stuff down over the next few minutes, then every one of you that are away from God, you're going to get right with God. See, there's something happening. Did you know tomorrow there's some martyrs that are going to be buried in Kentucky? Tomorrow, 3 young girls are going to be buried in Kentucky. It's probably going to be on national television. And if you see that program by chance, just remember, no matter what anybody says, those girls were martyred. Many of you don't know what I'm talking about. I can tell by the expression on your face. I believe it was Monday morning. Is that correct? Monday morning, there was a prayer meeting going on in a town in a place called Paducah. A prayer meeting was going on. Do I have the town correct? Is that correct? A prayer meeting going on in the hallways. Before school, legal. 30, 40 kids holding hands, praying. They were probably saying things like this: Jesus, thank you for your presence. Thank you, Lord, for this school. And we pray today for this school that you would send revival. By the way, we know some of the kids that were in that prayer meeting. At the close of the prayer meeting, they said amen, and shots rung out. 3 kids dropped dead. A couple others were hit. One, I believe, is paralyzed. I'm not sure. A few others were treated and released, but 3 were martyred for the cause of Christ. Those 3 girls, and I don't know what it's like in the stadium in heaven. I don't know what they can see and what they cannot see. I don't know if God allows them to continue seeing what we see. I just don't know. I don't know if they're watching this service. I don't know about. I know there's a great cloud of witnesses up there. I don't know exactly how that all works. But I promise you that what I'm about to preach to you, those girls would be standing behind me saying, let them have it. Every word. For we were not ashamed of the gospel of the Lord Jesus Christ. For I knew whom I had believed, and I was persuaded. So I'm not going to talk real kind on a few subjects. I'm going to just lay it on the line. See, there's something happening in America that's going to be stopped dead in its tracks. There's a religious spirit in this nation. People are mixing the fundamental principles of Christianity along with the junk of the world. They believe they can sit in a congregation with sin in their lives and go to heaven. They are the ones that are driving the nails in deeper, the spikes in deeper. They're sitting in our congregations. Pastors are sick of it. The church that is on fire is sick of it. And the world is sick of it. They come and testify in this revival. I shared with you last night of the lady that testified in the baptismal pool. I believe it was last Friday or the Friday before that. That she said, I sang in the choir. Been in church all my life. I was an adulterer, into pornography, but she was leading the congregation in worship. Something's wrong with this picture. We wonder, pastors, why there's not revival. I want to encourage the pastors. I'm not the pastor of this church. John Kilpatrick, he's my pastor. But I know he backs what I'm about to say because we've discussed it. If you know, pastors, that there's someone in your church that's in blatant sin, they're in sin and you know it. It could be a man that fondles on a regular basis his daughter. You've heard it. You've heard the rumors. The daughters come to you, but you don't deal with it. Why? He drops a couple thousand a week into the offering. And you've already done the books. You've seen that, man. We're talking $8,000 a month. We're talking church mortgage. You're leaning on the arm of flesh, sir. You need to deal with sin, get the cancer out. That's what I love about this man. You won't see a homosexual playing the organ. You won't see an adulterer singing in the choir. The reason people disappear at Brownsville is sin. And people will come up, they'll go, "Where's Judy?" And I'll say, "She's just gone. I know where Judy's at. She's gone because she was nailed about a major sin in her life. She didn't like that. Pastor nailed it. He called it. He called her in and said, 'You will not be involved in this and be part of this church.'" That's why revival broke out here, and that's why revival continues here. And until you make that stand, friend, God cannot pour out His Spirit on an unclean vessel. How many have heard the word apologetics before? The word apologetics, it's a branch of theology, and I've said in this congregation before, I've always hated that word because it sounds like you're apologizing for something. Apologetics is a branch of theology which defends the Holy Scripture and sets forth the evidence of their divine authority. That's apologetics. You're defending the Scripture. An apology is something said or written in defense of what appears to others wrong or unjustifiable. You apologize. Now, how many of you have had to apologize for things before? How many know what an apology is? I wrote a few down today just as a reminder of some stupid things I've done. How many have done some stupid things in your life? I see those hands. Even the man that was about to go to sleep raised his hand. You go to sleep, that's a stupid thing. But I remember one time I did something really stupid. This is sort of a slip-up, stupid type of thing. I've done some on-purpose stupid things, but this was one of those goofy, not watching what I was doing, stupid thing. I went to see a federal judge one time. It was an important thing for me to see this judge. He was an important man in the judicial system of the United States of America. I went to see him, and I remember walking to his palatial office, and I was so impressed at what was going on there, all these people buzzing in and out. And I remember walking in this long office with this beautiful desk and all the law books, and I was in this man's study. I was in his office, the judge. His robe was hanging on a coat hanger, and I knew that he was going to go to trial in just a short while, and I had a few minutes with him. So I prepared what I was going to say. And I walked across the room, and I could not wait to meet the man. So he was behind his desk. I wasn't going to wait for him to come around his desk. I was just going to shake his hand right across the desk. So I walked up to him, straight up to him, and I stuck my hand out, and there was a big cup of hot coffee on the desk. My hand hit the coffee. The coffee exploded on him, just whoosh. My big moment. My I can't wait to meet this man moment. Boy, did I apologize. And it's one of those apologies. There's nothing you can say. There's nothing you can say. That was a situation that I apologized for. How many know apologies like that? You ever had to do them? How many have misjudged somebody before and you've apologized? I remember when God began to move all over America, all over the world. You know, this is back in 1993, 1994, 1992. Claudio Freyson, a friend of mine from Argentina, was being mightily used of God. Many of you know his story. He was prayed for by Benny Hinn. Matter of fact, Benny Hinn did something he had never done. Claudio Freyson was in his church, thousands of people at Benny's church. Claudio Freyson had read Good Morning, Holy Spirit. Claudio was a Bible professor from Argentina. He was a very simple man with a decent church, 400 members, 500 members. Claudio read Good Morning, Holy Spirit, and the Lord told him to go up and have Benny Hinn pray for him. So Claudio went up to Benny Hinn's church, walked in, one man in a mass of thousands. This place was packed. Benny walked right up to Claudio and took his coat off and threw it over Claudio. And he said, "The anointing." Claudio went back to Argentina. The day he was getting into Argentina at the Buenos Aires airport, which is called Ezeiza, I was leaving. We passed. I saw Claudio coming into Argentina. I was leaving to go work in Spain, never to return to Argentina as a missionary. We passed within 3 feet of one another. Little did I know what he was carrying. He arrived back at his church, and within 3 or 4 weeks, he went from 400 to 65,000. The power was sweeping through the city. People were flying in from everywhere. Masses were being touched by the power of God. People were being healed, set free, delivered. Now you can say, I don't believe in all of that. Friend, you got a problem. You got a problem. It happened. It's real. I heard about it. You know what I said? Get out of here. You ever been like that? That ain't God. That's a bunch of emotionalism. You know, I would say things, you know, just negative, brainwashing. I would say things like, well, that's mass hypnosis. You ever heard people say that? I said that. That's brainwashing. You know, right, Steve, 65,000 people in a stadium. Okay, everybody look this way. You're getting sleepy. You know, the whole concept of that is insane, because you have doctors, lawyers, nurses, school kids. You got a variety of people. 65,000 people are not going to get brainwashed. Masses hit by the power of God. But I didn't like it. Want to know why? Because it wasn't happening in my ministry. Hello? Get a grip, Pastor. Wasn't happening in my ministry. So I didn't like it, and I crossed it off. It wasn't of God. People would come and tell me, said, Steve, you're not going to believe this. He's going to the hardest areas of Argentina, and the power's coming down. One man called me up, a good friend of mine that I trusted. He said, Steve, you don't have to believe this if you don't want to. But I went over to Claudio, and I got close, and I reached out, and he touched my hand, and I flew 20 feet through the air, Steve. I flew through the air. And he said, you don't have to believe me, Steve, but everybody saw it. I was thrown through the air by the power of God. And I just brushed it all off. Brushed it all off. Tried to avoid it. This was 1992. Later, I got a call from Prague, Czechoslovakia. They wanted me to come hold a crusade, a meeting. And they said, Claudio Freyson's been here. And I said, oh, man. I said, what's he done? Well, he's really confused some of us here. And I said, well, what's happened? He said, well, thousands and thousands have been changed. Lives have been transformed, he said. But a few of us pastors, this guy said, are a little confused. And I said, listen, don't give it a second thought. There ain't nothing to what's going on. It's just a bunch of brainwashing. And the guy goes, well, if you say so, Steve. I said, I say so. That's all it is. Don't worry about it. It'll pass. I'm confessing to you, friend. I'm letting you know there's an apology coming. Big apology. Major. It wasn't long before the power of God swept all over me. And I was on the phone with Claudio praying long distance. He and I are buddies now, by the way. He calls me about once every 2 weeks. Every time he goes and does a crusade, we talk over the phone. He goes, pray with me now, Steve, now. And I go, where are you, Claudio? He said, I'm about to walk into 75,000 people in Santiago, Chile. Pray for me right now. I said, Claudio, really, where are you? He goes, I've got a portable phone, and they're waiting for me to get on the platform. Pray. And I'll go, now, Jesus, ahora, tócalo, fuego, fuego, fuego. Oh. And Claudio, he'll be going, oh, and I know it's time for him to get on the platform. Then he'll always pray for me. We do this all the time now. My staff can tell when it's going on in my office. It's just there. It's just happening. So I had to call my friend back in Prague and say this: I apologize. I was wrong. Can you say that, friend? Have you ever been able to say, I was wrong? I was wrong. I'm going to go ahead and share with them something that happened today. Today, we had lunch with Hank Hanegraaff. Hank was with us last night. This is all I'm going to say about it. We've become brothers and friends. It's beautiful. Some of you don't know who he is, and that's fine, but he's a brother that's been a little critical towards the revival. And that word, I was wrong, I made a mistake, I misjudged. That's what the conversation was all about between all of us. It was wonderful. It was wonderful. People getting together. And if you can't get to that place where you can say, I apologize. I apologize. I was wrong. Then I would check your relationship with Jesus. But I misjudged this present move of God. And it's not about falling out. It's not about shaking. It's about more of Jesus. See, how do you know, Pastor, that past the falling and past the shaking are the cripples jumping out of wheelchairs? But God wants you to get through some of these little mental stumbling blocks so you can see major miracles. How do you know that masses aren't going to be healed down the road? But right now, He's got to get you through some of these minor head blocks. That's a little, I don't like the shaking. I don't like this. And the Lord's saying, you haven't seen anything. If you can't get past that, I'm sure not going to bring the paraplegics into your church. Well, I had to apologize. And I've also had to apologize to my mom. You ever had to apologize to your parents? For many, many things. Many, many things I had done wrong. Just a couple years ago, well, my brother and I were talking about this day before yesterday. We started a fire one time. I said George started it. George said I started it. But George started it. And it was in a field on Thanksgiving Day in Huntsville, Alabama. And it was a field that was white, ready for fire. We had a pack of matches. We were children. And George took a match and he struck it and he threw it down on a pile of wheat, just tall wheat, just rye as dry can be. And it spread, and he told me the other day he remembers finding a piece of plywood, and he threw the piece of plywood on the fire. That was stupid, okay? Because it went whoosh on all four sides, lit everything. So it started burning out of control. Swept the field, about to burn houses down. Got big, we ran. As fast as we could, back home. Ran through the basement, up into our bedroom, locked the door, brought out the building blocks, erector set, and started building. That's how old I am, by the way. Building blocks, erector sets. And so here we were building. We hear in the distance, we're not about to find out what that is. Doesn't take long before there's a knock at the door. It's a fireman. We go out because Mom calls us out. We go out and the fireman says, have you boys been playing outside with matches? Ask my mom. My mom says, no, they've been in the room all this time. And we go, yeah, we've been in the room all this time. 5 or 6 fire trucks parked down there trying to put out this roaring blaze. So we got away with it. It was in the paper. It was a major deal. A lot of acreage got burned down. Well, about 30 years went by. It takes time, Mama. And my mama was visiting me. And she was sitting on the couch, and I said, Mom, you know, we've talked about a lot of things, haven't we, Mama? And every once in a while, I'll call her honey, sweetheart. And this is one of those times. I said, Mama, honey, Mama, sweetheart, Mama, I love you. And I said, remember that Thanksgiving Day? Remember the fire? She said, no, Steve. No. Because I had already confessed so many things, it was like, at least he didn't start the fire. So I had to apologize. There's some of you sitting here going, is that God speaking to me about turning myself into my parents? Well, those are apologies, friend, and allow me just for a couple minutes tonight. Those are things that I've had to apologize for. But there are some things I will never apologize for. Ever, ever, ever. One of those things is this: I will never apologize for the person of Jesus Christ, who He is and what He did. You won't find me apologizing to anyone about Jesus. I won't back up, friend. I won't slow down. I won't hang my head. He was, friend, the baby wrapped in swaddling clothes lying in a manger. He was the one that the wise men adored, bearing gifts. He was the one that Simeon held in his arms and said, mine eyes have seen thy salvation. He was the son of a carpenter. He was a little boy expounding on the holy things in the temple. He was a one, friend, that everyone marveled at as a child, but he wasn't just a little boy lying in a manger, friend. He was the King of Kings and Lord of Lords. He was a God that created the heavens and the earth. He is everything. You won't ever catch me apologizing, hanging my head. And when someone comes up to me and says, well, I believe there's a lot of ways to heaven, I'll look them straight in the eyes and I'll go, do you believe in Jesus? They'll go, yes. Do you believe that He was a great man? They'll say, yes. Do you believe He was a liar? They say, no. Do you believe the scriptures are accurate? And they say, yes. And I'll say, then what are you going to do with this scripture? I am the way. I am the truth. I am the life. No man comes to the Father but through me. And I'll look them square in the eyes and say, Buddhist, there's only one way to heaven. Muslim, there's only one way to heaven. Jew, there's only one way to heaven. Is anybody listening? I hope so. My brother, George, who's just gotten mightily saved. He's gotten scary saved. He was wrapped up in the California culture for years and worked 5 years for the Grateful Dead. He's believed in theosophy, that there's a million ways to get to heaven. He called me up the other day and apologized to me. My older brother, he said, Steve, this was just 3 or 4 days ago. He said, Steve, I just want to tell you, I want to say forgive me for rejecting Jesus for so many years. And he's realizing now that He's the only way to heaven. I'll never apologize that for Jesus, friend. Everyone look this way, and you better not either. Don't you ever bow your head. Don't you ever take some side track route to get around it. You hold your head up high. He is who He says He is, and He's going to do what He said He's going to do. Boy, I feel His presence in this place, friend. When I give this altar call in a minute, you need to come running, those of you that are away from God. And then when we open it up for prayer, don't miss it. God's in this house. See, we're lifting up Jesus right now. God loves that. The Father loves that. When you lift up His Son. I tell you one other thing I'll never apologize for. I'll never apologize for my conversion and the way it happened. One of the reasons I love Saul's conversion in the book of Acts is he told it like it was. He told strange things. He said, I fell to the ground. A bright light shone at noonday. Read it in Acts chapter 9. He said it shone at noonday. That's a bright light, friend. Shone above the sun. A voice spoke out of the heavens. This is strange. I don't know how you were converted, but this is how Saul was converted. A voice spoke out of the heavenlies. I spoke back to that voice. About that time I was blinded. They led me away for 3 days. I was in a house in the darkness. Have you ever thought about that, friend? 72 hours in the dark. Think about that. What was going on in his heart? Who was coming in and out of that room? He was blinded for 3 days. The third day, a man came into the room and laid hands on me and prayed for me, and something like scales fell from my eyes. This is wild. You know what that's called? That's called an experience. And you better have one. I'm going to say that again, friend. You better have had an experience. You better have had an experience. Let me relate this to those of you that say, well, you know, I've just sort of been born into Jesus. No, friend, there's a time that you make a decision to follow Him. You're not born into this thing, friend. You have to make a decision. I remember the first time I met John Kilpatrick. I met him at a hotel, Holiday Inn in Marianna, Florida. I was raising money for missions. He came walking in. A man said to me, that's the pastor of Brownsville Assembly of God in Pensacola, Florida. This was back in 1984 or 1985. Long time ago. That's the pastor at Brownsville. And the first thing that went into my mind was dollar signs. Because I'm a missionary. Missionaries love to build churches, and it takes money. Don't ever get irritated at missionaries, friend. Now, if they're blowing money on the field, get irritated. But we ain't blowing money. We're putting up churches all over the world. I saw John Kilpatrick. I saw dollar signs. I went up to him. I didn't know him. I had to have an encounter with him. We had to meet one another, and we met, and I brought in front of him a poster board, and it had a bunch of little bricks. It was a pyramid made of bricks. And I said, John Kilpatrick, I know you're a busy man, but this is a pyramid of bricks going up to Argentina, and it's $25,000 pyramid, you know. And I said, it's going all to the top. And I said, on the bottom are $100 bricks, and the next row are $200 bricks, and then $400 bricks, and then $500 bricks. It goes all the way up to $1,000 bricks. And then at the very top was a $5,000 brick. And if I sold all the bricks, I had $25,000. I was on an airplane to Argentina. I had raised all my financial support. I had already raised my monthly support. John Kilpatrick looked at that pyramid. I don't know if he thought it was stupid. But he said, I want that brick. He pointed to the top brick. And he gave the money to me. That's even stranger. Most pastors say, you know, well, I'm going to talk about it with my board. I really want to help you, brother, but let me just take it to my board and give me a call in a couple weeks. In a couple weeks, they're out on vacation. They knew that. But not John Kilpatrick. You know what that was? That was an encounter. I met him, and from that moment spoke highly of him after preaching in his church right after that. I knew the character of the man after meeting his church and meeting the board and seeing how he operated things. By the way, I don't know if you remember this, Pastor, but that day at church, you excommunicated a family. I had never seen that in church. We were sitting in there, and there was a family in the back of the church. This was in the chapel. And they stood to their feet. And they were excommunicated from the church for sin in their lives that they didn't deal with. They were kicked out of the church because they had been brought before a person, and then more people, and they didn't deal with it, and they were continuing to spread cancer in the church. They were excommunicated. I fell in love with this church. I said, my God, a New Testament church. Well, got about half the people clapping on that one. Read the scriptures. Paul said, those that sin rebuke before all, that others may fear. I guarantee everybody in that church was thinking about sinning. Thought. But I'll take no apology for my conversion experience. I met the Lord 22 years ago, friend. It was dramatic. It was phenomenal. I loved it. And today I was explaining it to Hank Hanegraaff, how I met Jesus, how Jesus came into my life. It was an experience that changed Steve Hill. Nobody shared the 4 spiritual laws with me. Nobody talked to me about the Romans road to salvation. Nobody read the Bible to me. A Lutheran vicar came in and said, Steve, if you'll say the name Jesus, he'll change your life. I wouldn't trade that experience for anything, friend. And I'll talk about it all the days of my life. Because He set me free. No apologies for my conversion. And if you're ashamed of your conversion, you need to go back to that road sign, friend, and clean the sign up. That's a road marker in your life. You need to go back to and clean it up. Polish that sign. Clip the weeds that are growing around it. Plant some flowers. That's a memorial. That's when you got saved. This young man that just shared a few minutes ago, some of you are sitting out there going, my Lord and my God, that's weird stuff. You know, he's down here and he saw the cross. He saw the crucifixion. And then he saw Him hammering the nails in. Then he saw Him dying. Then he saw Him hammering the nails in. Dying, hammering the nails in. What was that, friend? That's an experience that he had. Don't ever trade that for anything, friend. Well, Charity, act like you're getting ready to sing, okay? Shuffle around a little bit. Good, that's good. We're going to close in just a minute. I make no apologies for the power of the gospel. The power of the gospel. Pastor, I want to ask you something. Where's the power? I got a question. Where's the power? We got the program. We got the agenda. Where's the power? Are we afraid to ask that question? Some of us are. We're afraid to ask that question. Where's the power? Where's the power in the church? It was in the New Testament church. Silver and gold have I none, such as I have give I thee. Power. They just displayed it. They saw, angels hung around the early church. It was awesome. It's supposed to be like that right now. The power is supposed to be coming down all the time. It's supposed to be, where's the power? Well, when the power shows up, when it showed up here on Father's Day, we were not ashamed. And we did not apologize. As a matter of fact, John Kilpatrick stood up here at this pulpit and he said, this is it. Get in. Those are famous last words. After that, you went out for about 4 hours. And for the next 2 weeks, we wheeled him out in a wheelchair. He came in walking like this. And he would sit down in that chair, give him a half hour, 45 minutes max. His hand started going over like this. I wanted to go back down like that. To go back up, he's put it over his face like this. And I knew about that time. See, it's called the glory of God. He'll wash you, Pastor. He'll take that busyness off of you. You'll bask in His presence. Glory means weightiness. And the weightiness of the Lord. That's why some of you, when you fall out, you can't get up. I've stood over people and I've said, get up. Get up. Big old brawny man. Get up! Can't get up. Come on, buddy, get up! He's going, oh, you grown man can't get off the floor. And I get down next to him. I said, come on, man, we need your space. Get up, get up. Can't get up. What is that, friend? That's the glory of the Lord. It came over this man over and over again. It's called the power of God. And it's wonderful. He'll change you. And it's still falling in this place. Every night last night was phenomenal. People hit by the power. How many are here for the first time? People raise their hands. You pray for them. Wham! Gone. Come back an hour later. Still gone. Come back 2 hours later. They're lying in the grass out there. Somebody dumped them in the grass. Friend, it's time for the power to come back. The power of the Lord to heal. Deliver, set free. I'm not ashamed. I don't apologize for it, Pastor. When the power comes down in your church, don't you hang your head. Lift it high. When people say, well, I don't understand all that, I don't believe in all that falling down. That's their problem. That's their problem. I don't apologize. Never have. Never will. There's power to deliver. You heard the testimonies tonight. Some of you sit there and others just shouting and clapping. When a family says, my whole family's changed. My whole family has changed. I've been healed. I've been this. I've been that. What is that? That ain't a program, friend. That ain't Sunday school attendance. That is the power. The power of the gospel. We got to have it. I'm not ashamed of that, friend. I don't apologize for it. And I'm going to close in a minute. This is good. I haven't seen any hands go up. We're doing all right tonight. I make no apologies for the position of the Bible concerning sin. I see a lot of people are sidetracking this issue, but I ain't sidetracking. We never have. See, the Bible is hard on sin. Say that with me. The Bible is hard on sin. I've got in my office, I didn't bring it tonight, but it's a piece of paper that says the 370 sins of the Bible. And I started reading those things, and I want to tell you, friend, it's scary. From Genesis to Revelation, 370 sins in the Word of God. And I began to read them, and last night, I took the 30 pieces of silver from Judas's life, and I started naming out some of the sins. Why are you betraying God? Why are you? And I spoke on friendship, and I started naming sins. There's sins in the Bible, for example, bragging on yourself, having an unruly tongue. I've sinned against God. Remember my unruly tongue? Remember, that ain't God, that's brainwashing. Allowing my tongue just to flap. That's a sin, that's an abomination to God. I don't apologize for the stand of the Bible concerning sin. Many of you may have heard that there's a great write-up in Spin Magazine. How many are familiar with Spin Magazine? About 20 people. That's good. I'd have been concerned if everybody went, hey, ho. Spin Magazine is a youth raunch magazine, okay? It's a music magazine, full of raunch, full of garbage, sensual ads, just acid rockers, just the punkers, and they got new names for them now. I can't keep up with it, so I'm just using the old names. But a lot of witchcraft, a lot of demonic activity in the book. You can see it. And on the front cover of Spin, month before last, was this. In bold print, 103,000 saved in Pensacola. You open it up on page 112, and it says, the article is entitled, An Awesome God. And it shows people worshiping. And then you flip the page, and it said, if the Brownsville Assembly of God is going to bring America back to God, they're going to do so on their knees, scared, sinless. And the article goes on and on and on. People, some rockers, some acid heads, some punk rockers that have gotten saved, their picture and their testimonies in there. Picture the Evangelist, a whole page of me preaching. Strange stuff. I've never been in Spin. I was bigger than Marilyn Manson in that magazine. But the writer of that article, and I can say this publicly, was a homosexual. He came to this revival, was here for several days. The reason I know he's a homosexual is because he said it in the article. At the end of it, he says, I guess I've lived in Sodom too long. And he left out of here and went to a gay bar. He writes that right in the article. And he met me in the back, and he asked me some questions. He said, Steve, I got a problem with a couple things you said. I said, a couple, that's pretty good, after 5 days of revival, to just come up with a couple, pretty much it was right on. But he said, you make a really, really bold stand against homosexuality. And I said, well, I preach the Word. I preach the Bible. You read Romans chapter 1, there's a bold stand made against homosexuality. Sodomy, I said to him, is wrong. It's a hideous, abominable sin. For a woman to lay with a woman, a man to lay with a man, it's all sin. Period. I didn't hang my head in shame. I did not apologize. I don't apologize for the Bible's stand on sin. As a matter of fact, 3 weeks later, a group of people called me from Spin Magazine. They were in a board meeting. They were fixing to publish the article. They said, is this Stephen Hill? I said, yes, it is. They said, we want to clarify something, your stand on homosexuality. And by the way, Spin is owned by Penthouse. okay? And we're treading in some interesting waters with this revival, friend. You ever paddle in that river? That's a mucky river out there, man. And here, we've never been promoted by Penthouse or Spin, and here they're out pushing the revival. I mean, it's just weird. And they said, what's your stand on homosexuality? I said, it's wrong, over the phone. And they said, well, we have a Bible in front of us. This is a board meeting at Spin Magazine. And they said, we got it open to the book of Romans, and according to the book of Romans, you're right. Come on, Jesus! Come on, Jesus! Oh! Yes! No apology! No apology, Jesus! We'll stand on the Word of God. If the Word says it, we'll preach it. Remain standing. Everyone remain standing. Remain standing. If you didn't stand up, stand up. I want to tell you what will happen, friend. Everyone stand. If you will take a stand. The man called me, the man who did the article called me the other day. See, I love these folks. Can I say that again? I love them. We're becoming friends with these people. As a matter of fact, several of them have given me their home phone numbers. Why? It doesn't hurt to have an evangelist on the side, just, every now and then just call to make sure that the Lord's not coming back tomorrow, But he called me the other day. His name's Mark, and he called me up and he said, Steve, this is Mark, I believe his last name's Shoney. He said, what'd you think of the article? I said, it was awesome, but I'm a little disappointed with something. He goes, what? I said, well, I've been waiting. I've been looking at the other Spin magazines for the letters, the responses to it. He said, oh, we've been flooded. He said, we have been flooded by kids that love the article. He said, we'll be printing the letters, but we are so slow around here. And that's what he said. He said, we're so slow. We'll be getting them in there, but you would not believe the response. You know who responded? I promise you, kids that are out there backslid, smoking dope, getting high, reading Spin. Oh! And he said, I really like the article, man. And right now, I'm just dealing with this situation just one step at a time, getting to know the guy. We've already talked. Y'all understand that, don't you? Heavy duty talked, okay? We've established the ground, and there's a dividing line. I want that to break down. I want somehow to be able to win him to the Lord. And he said, Steve, he said, I've been commissioned by the New York Times to write another article. And I said, well, what's the article on? He said, well, it's on the history. This is blowing my mind. The history of the Pentecostal movement. And I said, wait a minute. I said, you write for Spin Magazine, and New York Times has contacted you to write an article on the history of Pentecost. Okay? This is going to be good. And I said, where have you gone for your sources? And he said, oh, Steve, I've already done all that. And he started naming all the sources that Mike Brown uses. He started spitting out these places. Vincent Sinan was one of his first sources. But he's already contacted the Assemblies of God, the Church of God. He's been down the road already. And he said, you want to hear the name of it? Tell me if you like it. This is what he said over the phone. He said, it's called From Azusa Street to Brownsville. Well, I said, that'll do. That'll work. Now, the article may have all kinds of twists and turns and strange things in there. You know, it may say something like, the Assemblies of God believe that if you stand on your head and flap your right leg and speak in tongues, then you'll go to heaven. It might say that. That's fine. Because the people that are going to be reading this, friend, trust me, the world is not half as concerned about stuff like that as you religious folks are. The world can watch 2020 and see somebody doing this, and they're sitting up in Cincinnati with a six-pack of beer going, now, baby, that's got to be God, because nobody can shake like that. And then they come to revival. While the religious neighbors are going, that's an abomination, So don't worry about articles like that, friend. They're wonderful. When that thing comes out in the New York Times, there's ought to be all kind of weird stuff in it. But the bottom line is, people are going, well, I missed Azusa. That's over. But they're saying Brownsville's still going on. I think I'll go down there and check it out. Yes, Lord. Well, tonight I don't apologize for this altar call. I want everyone to move their chairs to the left and the right. No apologies for what's about to happen. No one move in this room. I want you to stay in this place. Stay in this place. God's going to move in your life. I can already see some concerned faces. It's the I enjoyed it up to now face. Charity, come join me. Move the chairs quickly. God bless y'all. And then find a place in the congregation or up and down the sides. I don't apologize, folks. Look this way, everybody. For the Bible stand against sin. Now don't ever forget, everyone look this way, don't ever forget Jesus' words when it came to the adulterous situation. He said, you think it in your heart. Let me share something with you that is going to shock half the people in this room. When I first heard it, it shocked me. A man by the name of Wayne Benson who comes to this church, comes to this revival. He's got a great church up in Michigan. I heard a teaching by him on the spirit of murder. And when he said he announced his text, Pastor, on the spirit of murder, I sat there and thought, this is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard in my life. He's going to speak on the spirit of murder. There's a group of pastors. Is anybody listening? A group of pastors and their wives. And this is what he said. If you have willingly entertained fantasies you have looked at another woman, you're a married man with children, and you've looked at another woman and you've thought about her and you entertained it. See, the problem, sir, is not seeing another woman. You can't help that. The problem comes, ma'am, not in seeing another man. It's entertaining the thoughts. You can look at another man and say, he's handsome. You can look at a woman, sir, and say, she's beautiful. That's where it stops. It's over. That's natural. What is unnatural in the eyes of God and what is sinful is when you carry it on. Yes. And you begin to look at that secretary and start thinking things like this. I wonder what it would be like to be married to her. I wonder what it would be like for her to take care of my children. I wonder what it would be like to go on vacation with her. What it would be like to sit under the Christmas tree this Christmas and unfold the packages with her. What would it be like for him to come home from work every day in his car and come in and give me a kiss and sit down at the table with him? What have you done, friend? That's the spirit of murder. You have killed your spouse. You don't believe me? Try to find them in the picture. They're dead. You killed them. It's a spirit of murder. And when that man preached on that, you could hear a feather hit the floor. It was so quiet. There was about 150 of us there. I was going, my Lord and my God. Never even thought of that. I'm not one to entertain stuff like that, friend. But I want to tell you, it's a common practice. A common practice. The young man who killed these kids up in Kentucky contemplated it before he did it. See, they were dead before he ever got to the school. They were dead. He was already imagining life without that prayer meeting going on, without those kids. The spirit of murder. Think of it, friend. That's why I am so dogmatic. These are the kind of people I've been raised around. That's why I tell you to turn your head, sir, when you see something. Turn your head. That's why God gave you a neck. When you see something going on, see a woman walk in front of you with a floozy dress on, turn your head. Why? Don't allow anything to enter in. Does it take discipline? You better believe it takes discipline. Do you live like that, Steve? You better believe I live like that, friend. Why? I've been married to the same woman for 18 years. We have a 10-year-old, a 6-year-old, and a 3-year-old. And I intend that when Shelby is 18 and graduates from school, I'm going to be there with my wife. We're going to watch her graduate. And we're going to be there when she has children. Why? Because I've kept myself pure. Why? Because I've turned my head. Why? Because I did not commit the spirit of murder. I did not allow the spirit of murder to come over me and start entertaining those thoughts. It's spooky in here, isn't it? It is. It's convicting is what it is, friend. It's convicting. But that's what Jesus dealt with. See, Jesus knows the heart of every man and woman. See, I'm scared of God. Okay, I'm scared of Him. It's a holy fear, but I'm scared of Him. I love Him. I worship Him. He's my best friend. But I know the price He paid for me. And I'm scared of Him. I don't want to mess with Him. I don't want to blow it. Just like my son has a holy fear when I say, Ryan! He stops everything and he comes running. Why? He's scared of me. It's a fear that's godly. Have I ever beat him? Never beat him once. Mistreated him? Never. He's spoiled rotten. But he also knows that Daddy is over him and I have got the authority over him. And I'm the one that puts that food on his plate and the clothes on his back and gas in his go-kart. And so he better come when I call him. So I've got a fear of God. And when I see a cover of a magazine that's alluring, the first thing that comes to my mind is, turn your head. Wash me, Jesus. Wash me, Jesus. Why? A lot of reasons. I want to be used as an evangelist. I want to win the nation to Christ. I want the power to come down. I want the lame to jump up out of wheelchairs. I want the dead to be raised. And I don't want God to look at me and turn His head in shame and go, oh, no. My choice servant, giving it all up for 2 minutes of pleasure. Think about it, friend. It's sad. It's sad. I believe in the disciplined life. My family comes to this revival. They'll tell you, my staff is here. They'll tell you what it's like at our office. I'm saying this for a reason. Some of you need to hear this. My staff do never, ever dress in a way that is attracting to them, to where you're attracted to them. They're always concerned about their appearance. I've got some of the best girls working in our staff. They're wonderful. They never come to work with some outfit to attract another man. They come and you never think about it because they're never there to attract you. Never low cut, never high hems. always dressed to work. I love that discipline, that godliness, that holiness. The other day, one of the workers was cleaning my office, and I was in there studying, and she bent over to clean some books, and she had a high-cut blouse on, and I watched her grab her blouse. It was high-cut. She grabbed her blouse and bent over and cleaned the books. What was that? I was 15 feet away. What was that? That was something that's being built into the Bible school. She's one of the Bible school students. And I thought, man, if she's going to act like that, what a woman of God. What a faithful wife. What a trophy. Right now, I'm going to give this altar call. Everyone in this room that's backslidden, there's something in your life between you and God. Friend, tonight, He's going to forgive, He's going to wash, He's going to cleanse. Anything that you've done between you and God, and you know exactly what you're thinking, and so does God. But you got to get it out down here at these altars. I want you to wait don't come until Charity begins to sing. You're going to come down to these altars, and you're going to get right with God. I make no apologies for this, friend. No closed eyes, no raised hands. The revival that's going to spread around the world is going to be public. No privacy to it. It's going to be running to the altar in front of God and man, getting right with Jesus. So if there's something in your life between you and Jesus, maybe you've known the Lord, but now you've slid away. I feel the presence of God in this place, Pastor. I want to tell you what's about to happen to many of you. If you'll get that last little junk out, a river will start flowing through you. Some of you have financial problems. I want to tell you why. You have not been a good steward with your own spiritual life. And as you get your spiritual life intact, everything else is going to follow suit. It's going to fall into place as you get your spiritual life in place. You're going to get that little sin out, that little area, that little detail. Steve, if I come up there, are you going to get us on the platform and shout out all this stuff? No, sir. That's not what this is about. But it is about you stepping away from your pew, coming down from the balcony, coming down from this main auditorium, getting on your knees and saying, Jesus, you've nailed me. I wanted to be nailed. I wanted to be spoken to. I want to get this out, Jesus, and I want to leave out of here brand new. I want to enter the Christmas season with a clean heart, a pure heart. I want to look at the baby in the manger, the twinkle in your eyes. I want you to see a twinkle in mine. Jesus, I want purity in my life. That's what this is all about. Those of you that have never known the Lord, you're going to come quickly. He'll change you. He'll turn you around. I know for a fact there's many people here that do not know Jesus. You never have known Him. I've met some of you already personally. I want you to come down here and meet Jesus. He'll change your life. You're not going to meet John Kilpatrick or Steve Hill. You're going to meet Jesus. You're going to wake up tomorrow morning with Jesus. You'll go to work. You'll go to school with Jesus. 10 years from now, He'll be with you. He's fascinating. He's a friend that sticks closer than a brother. He's awesome. I love Him. I'm loving watching my brother right now in love with Jesus. My older brother, who's brilliant. He's going to be a Michael Brown. He's that smart, Mike. And I know you don't lift yourself up like that, but he's brilliant. George is brilliant. And I'm watching him right now talk about Jesus. And to hear my brilliant brother saying things like, oh, Steve, this morning I was praying. And he goes, and Jesus spoke to me. And I'm going, oh, this is so fresh, so childlike, so full of God. He'll be like that to you, friend, tonight. And those of you in this room that are religious, we spend a few minutes, and I make no apologies for this. Jesus didn't either. He said, you whitewashed tombs full of dead men's bones. He blatantly, openly, with his mouth wide open, spoke against the religion of the day. He said, you do everything for everyone to see. That's garbage. So you can go to hell with a choir robe on, friend. You can go to hell with a certificate of ordination hanging behind your desk from the Assemblies of God or the Southern Baptist or the United Methodist. You pick a denomination, it doesn't matter. God's never seen one of our denominations. He's never seen Baptists, never seen the Methodists, never seen them. All he's ever seen are the ones that are washed in the blood of the Lamb. That's the only group that's ever going to make it, friend. And I want to ask you, religious person, do you know Him? And I'm going to close. Do you wake up in the morning with Jesus on your heart? Now, I'm going to ask you this. You better be serious about it, friend. Do you go to sleep at night with Jesus on your heart? Are you ashamed of Him? See, I make no apologies for Jesus. Today, with Hank Hanegraaff, in a restaurant, with heathens around, what did we do? We all grabbed hands together in the restaurant and prayed out loud. Why? Who cares? Who cares? You know, they're over there talking about football and baseball scores. Loud, shouting out games and players and obnoxious. Why can't we just pray out loud? Are you ashamed to do that? If you're ashamed to do that, friend, there's something wrong with your Christian life. There's something wrong. Seriously, there's something that's affected it. It's anemic. You need to get right with God tonight. If you're not white hot for Jesus. See, my family's come to this revival. My family are all Lutherans, and I love the Lutheran church. But I've watched one by one my family hit these altars. Every one of them were religious, and they testified here. My sister Marcia was baptized, my older sister, and she will testify to you. I came to this revival religious. I had all the trappings on me, but I didn't have a relationship with Jesus Christ. And does my sister Marcia, who's one of the most successful businesswomen in Alabama, does she buck up with pride and go, that's my brother preaching? I'd never go down there and hit those altars in front of him. I'll talk to him one-on-one. But if everyone knows that I'm his sister, this is too embarrassing. The altar call was given, and she and her husband were the first ones down. First ones down, right down there. And when they were prayed for, did they ask for Steve to come pray for them? No. One of the prayer members went over and talked to him and prayed with him, led him to the Lord. Awesome, friend. Not a prideful bone in their bodies. How about you? Well, Charity's going to sing Mercy Seat. If you're away from God, if you need forgiveness, if you need Jesus to wash you clean tonight, if you've never known Him, you're going to come from the balcony quickly. You're going to come from this main auditorium. If you're away from God, don't let pride hold you back. Snap that chain. Come on right now. Hurry, 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 hurry. Come on. I need the Lord. Hurry, hurry. Hurry, hurry. Get on your face before the Lord. Pick it up somewhere. Hurry! Come on! Come on! Come on! Come on! Hurry!
I'm running to
Hurry!
the mercy seat.
Come on! What are you waiting on?
What's going on inside, friend? Lost. What's going on inside? Of a lifetime of sin.
God bless you, sir.
Lovely illusions, they never come true.
Well, I know a place.
But I know where there's a place
of mercy,
for
you. Come on.
He said that you could come into His
Come on now.
presence.
Come on now. Come on. God bless you, sis. God bless you, sis. Come on down. Come on down.
Come running to the mercy seat where Jesus is calling. His grace will be uncovering.
His blood will flow freely.
It will provide the healing. Come running to the mercy seat.
I'm going to close. You better come.
He said that I could come into His presence without fear.
You better come.
Into the holy place.
Come on.
His mercy hovers near.
Hey, God bless you, sis. God bless you, ma'am.
I'm running to the mercy
I can't close this altar call yet. Everyone at the altar, keep your heads down. Lyndell's going to sing, Lord, have mercy. Folks, I'm going to give you 60 seconds. Some of you are being eaten alive right now. I wonder if I should. Should I go? Should I not? What on earth are you battling with that for? Erase that question from your head by stepping out. Do you think the Lord is telling you not to come down? I don't think so, friend. If there's a battle going on in your head, it's the devil saying, if you go down there, people are going to see you. If you go down there, what are they going to think? Friend, who cares what people think? God's telling you to get down here. Hurry. You got 60 seconds. Come on. Come on. God bless you. Come on. Come on. Come on. Come on. Hurry. Hurry. Everyone at the altar, keep your heads down. That was 60 seconds, but too many people came just then. Too many people came. Too many people came for me to stop at 60 seconds. I tell you what, devil, I'm speaking straight into your ears right now. You ain't got a chance tonight. You ain't got a chance in Jesus' name. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to bind everyone at the altar. Keep your heads down. God's working a mighty work. I can feel it. But I'm going to bind the devil right now. And I want to tell you, friend, these words mean something. I'm going to bind Satan from your life. If you know you're supposed to be down here, as soon as this prayer is prayed, the devil, by the authority in Jesus' name, has got to let you go. If you know you're supposed to be down here and you don't come from the balcony or at home or in this main auditorium, if you don't come, what you're saying to Lucifer is, the sin in my life, I want this sin in my life, go ahead and clamp it tighter. Go ahead and put the shackle around me tighter. Friend, you're playing games with hell. I'm going to pray this prayer and you better come quickly. God bless you, son. Lucifer, Satan, in Jesus' name, let your hands off him. Get your hands off him. Get your hands off her. Come on now, hurry, 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 hurry. God bless you. God bless you. Come on, step out right now. Let's go. Let's go. Come on down. Yes. Come on, God bless you. God bless you. Hurry, 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 hurry. Boy, some of y'all felt that. As soon as you break away, all heaven begins to come down in your life. Lucifer, God bless you, son. That's God. That's God. I'm going to tell you, I've never in the history of the revival done this, but I'm going to do that one more time. And when I do this the second time, when I pray and bind the devil, if there's sin in your life, that's when you step out. If you don't, there's a spiritual warfare going on. Trust me, the devil knows exactly what's going on in your life, friend. He's been watching it, and so does Jesus. What you're saying by not stepping out is, I'm going to keep my sin. Devil, take control. I'm not letting Jesus have this. That's what you're saying. This is spooky to me, Steve. Friend, this ain't spooky. Hell's spooky. This is heaven. This is wonderful. Come on down. God bless you. As soon as I pray that if you're coming, you better come quickly. Satan, get your hands off him in Jesus' name. Get your hands off her in Jesus' name. Now, now. you. God bless 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 you. Hurry, 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 hurry. Yeah. God bless you. God bless you. Come on. That's it. We must have had another 25 people come forward. Friend, this is awesome. I tell you what it's called. Every one of you at the altar, it's called victory. Those of you at home, this is not a spectator sport. This is not a football game. This is the Spirit of God going into your house right now. This is phenomenal. See, this is December 5th, 1997. God's moving mightily here at Brownsville. People are being set free. There's drug addicts here being set free. There's wealthy people being touched by the power of God. Every gamut of society's at this altar getting right with God. What about you? How about it, friend? How about getting on your knees at home and saying, Jesus, wash me, cleanse me, come into my life. I'm sick of this backslidden condition. I'm sick of being religious. I want to be saved. How about it, friend? Pray with us this prayer. Get on your knees. Everyone at the altar, I want you to pray with me out loud right now. Don't mumble. Pray out loud. Dear Jesus. Dear Jesus. Pray it again right now. Dear Jesus. Dear Jesus. Thank you for speaking to me. Thank you, Jesus, for not leaving me alone. Tonight, Jesus, I make no apology for coming down to these altars. This is what I'm supposed to do. I have sinned. I have hurt you. I've hurt others. And I've hurt myself. Forgive me, Jesus. Wash me, Jesus. Cleanse me, Jesus. Make me new. Get this junk off of me. Make me clean. I ask you tonight to be my Savior, my Lord, and my very best friend. From this moment on, I am yours, and you are mine. And I am not ashamed to say that, not only here, but outside this church. I don't apologize for the person of Jesus Christ. You are my friend. I will stand up for you. And I know you will stand up for me. In your precious name, in Jesus' name, amen.